hard time. But overall, what's striking about Europe and Canada and these places is average people are articulate. You see them, they can talk, they can. In our community, you know, unfortunately, the level of education is so low in so many places. It's a tragedy. I mean, this is a religion where it's a fard ayn to learn how to read. You know, the Prophet ﷺ encouraged reading. He freed prisoners if they would teach 10 Muslims how to read. And we created the most literate civilization in human history. Iqra, bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. I mean, the first command in the Quran is read. And, you know, readers are leaders, they say, right? That's something they say. Readers are leaders. Iqra warqa, read and rise. I wanted to start a movement in our community called Read and Rise, because I saw a map of the people that read the most books in the world. And the countries that were doing the best had the highest number of books read per year per capita. So there's a direct correlation to reading and human flourishing. Direct correlation. And we're not Rousseauian primitivists. You know, this romanticism that people have about Aboriginals and primitive peoples. You know, there's a kind of romanticism a lot of people. Many primitive cultures were brutal. The Peruvian, they just found 150 children that were sacrificed by one of the Peruvian Indian cultures, right? A few hundred years ago. 150 children, ritual sacrifice. Human sacrifice was common in many parts of the world. And then there was a lot of fighting. This idea they were all living in nature and everything was wonderful. They were fighting constantly. The Irish tribes were constantly fighting. The Germanic tribes were constantly fighting. They were barbarians. This idea, though, it was all wonderful, living in nature, this Rousseauian fallacy. Now, there's something very noble, undeniably, about many Aboriginal peoples. But if you want to see an amazing sign of what it was like in the pre-modern world, which is more Hobbesian than Rousseauian, in the pre-modern world, there's an image of an Amazonian Indian who meets this white man, and they're filming it. It's the first time this tribe ever saw anybody outside of the jungle. And they come out with their bows right on them, right? And if you read Lewis and Clark's travel log, when they would meet Indian tribes, they would get the reason they brought the girl, Sacagawea, right? The reason they brought her was because Native Americans tended not to attack parties that had women and children, generally. Not always, but generally, that was a principle. So if there were women and children, they'd just leave you out of deference. They actually had they thought the whites were horribly cruel to children because they didn't have the kind of punitive punishment, which is part Sharia as well. Like, children cannot be hit, and they should never be hit until they're at least 7, and then even then you would never hit them hard. It's just like, you know, just like a slap or something, but never hard, never on the face, never bruise them. You know, physical violence against children is criminal activity. But and also Benjamin Franklin wrote an essay about the Native Americans. He said one of the things about the whites that went native, right? They didn't want to come back, right? So the Native American peoples had many, many virtuous qualities, undeniably. But they also had a lot of war and between tribes. The Pawnee and the Lakota were fighting before. The Pequods were wiped out because their natural enemies allied with the English immigrants to wipe them out. And there were a lot of alliances between Native Americans and the English to fight their natural enemies before they came. This is all history. So romanticizing this kind of primitive past is very dangerous for our community. We're people that believe in learning, erudition. We believe in scholarship. We honor scholars. It doesn't mean we don't dishonor. And one of the beauties of Islam is they always honored Aboriginal peoples. They never belittled them. They never held them in contempt because they were Aboriginal. Our Prophet ﷺ was raised by Aboriginals. And the Quran clearly states, وَجَعَلْنَا وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ. We made you peoples and we made you tribes. So these are the two ways human beings exist in the world. And this is why Mauritania is unique in that these are Aboriginal peoples that are people of great erudition. They're unique amongst Aboriginals, and this is a testimony to Islam. Because these are nomadic people that are living in very primitive environments, teaching logic and rhetoric and grammar. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it anywhere in the Muslim world. So that's important. We don't belittle these people at all. And I'm not really. There is a lot of amazing qualities in traditional peoples. But there's also a lot of negative. They're human beings. They have their good and their bad, just like everybody else. But we're people of literacy. We believe that it's a great gift, that reading and symbolism and abstract thought, that these are great gifts for humanity and part of the intended purpose of our species.